Hello YouTube. I'm going to read a short story. It's going to be the first time I've read anything this long, so I'm hoping it'll go the whole 10 minutes and then I can do a little sequel. The story is called I Stepped Out of a Day, and if I get tongue-tied or nervous or lose my place, you probably won't see that because I'll probably just do it over. Alright. I Stepped Out of a Day by Masterson. I stood on the sidewalk eating a candy bar, dark oozing chocolate, appeasing my appetite for sex and company. Spring chirped in the trees as berries blossomed. People bustled by with sideways looks at the anomaly with the candy bar, accepting the moment for what it was, just a moment. I thought about possibly going to a movie or smoking some crack. The marijuana was wearing off because I couldn't fight off my voracious appetite and ended up killing my buzz. I dispelled the idea of crack because crack is a high-maintenance, forced social undertaking, and I'm asocial by nature, so I chose the movie. At the theater, my options were limited to mindless violence, predictable mystery, or some creepy animated movie about underwear and socks with human traits battling it out for dominion over the dresser drawer. I chose mindless violence. It complemented the resonating candy bar. After the movie, I felt zen-focused and believed, with a little work, I might be able to become an ass-kicking mercenary ninja. I filed through the Rolodex of my mind and systematically chopped and kicked my enemies to death, going all the way back to the first grade where I chopped Kyle Boogerman in the neck for calling me a pigeon-toed nose picker. As I walked to the theater lobby, I noticed once in a while someone would smile at me. This struck me odd, for I never give birth to smiles, not even implied smiles I see in the eyes of others exist within mine. The buck stops here. I noticed, near the exit, there stood an elderly woman with a very attractive girl, a hipster chick, standing in what looked to be an uncomfortable silence, like the experience was some kind of oral exam that they had prepared for. I pictured myself walking right up to the old broad, grabbing her Cary Grant style, and laying a huge tonguer on her and smacking my chops as I turned to the hipster chick and say, "What you think about that, baby?" Then dropping Granny on the stale discarded popcorn crumpled carpet. But of course, I just walked on out to the cool, sterile evening. I had to hurry to the nearest bus stop. I didn't have a watch, and the buses stopped running at dusk. I didn't wait long before my bus squealed to a halt and swallowed me up. The bus was empty, save for a petite girl of the dope fiend persuasion. I stayed my distance, but kept her in my periphery for entertainment. She didn't look awful bad, except for a tad bit of grease and dirt clogging her pores. I imagined myself offering her a place to crash and helping her kick. To my surprise, she turns out quite beautiful and, incidentally, the daughter of a prominent doctor who was eternally grateful to me for saving his darling daughter. But my dream disintegrated as I noticed the girl's index finger probing for foreign matter in her nasal cavity. Such is life. I opened the door of my one-bedroom apartment with a jingle of my sparse keyring. In the dim evening glow, I suddenly realized my melancholy approaching critical mass. There happened to be a cure in my freezer, but it was also karmic chemical Russian roulette. Jesus Christ. I had 10 hits of primo blotter acid, aptly named Jesus Christ, stashed away for days like this. One hit would have shook my funk, but I opted for 2 to shake it felony status. Now most would advise against heavy solo trips with a melancholy segue, but I happen to think heavy solo trips are better and much cheaper than psychoanalysis. Besides, the cockroaches in my hovel constitute a masked entity sensitive to my subtle psychic ejaculations. That's all one really needs if you think about it. Just a sentient audience. Without contemplation, I laid 2 hits of Christ juxtaposed on my tongue. Sizzle, no turning back. Before a heavy trip into the unknown, I like to meditate, to lubricate, focus and hone in on the mission at hand. In this particular case, the mission was to keep my sanity for the next 12 to 16 hours. I found my place for sitting and positioned my Zafu meditation pillow on my brown meditation mat. I sat half lotus, I'm a novice compared to some, and pulled the imaginary string from my crown chakra to align all of my chakras for optimum airflow. Butterflies were already fluttering, so I began my focus count and slid into my personal mantra, still the mind. 20 minutes in and the world was breathing with me. I became aware of every tactile sensation on my skin. I felt my nose break away from my eyes and had to quit the meditation before I was carried off into parts yet unknown. My stomach seemed to be perpetually tensed up. The evening hue had darkened into a mixture of swirling reds and greens that emanated off the surface of all reality. I switched on a lamp to my couch, and it was a cheap blow to my senses. Audio hallucinations crept in behind the veil of actual sound. The sounds of the city streets outside and the multiple vibrations reverberating from the dwellings attached to my own. I had been standing in the middle of my living room for an interminable block of time when the phone suddenly burst forth with a mighty ring, stimulating deep dagger stabs of paranoia. What time is it? I don't even have a fucking clock. I may as well talk to the devil or whoever it is. These thoughts ran light speed through my ravaged mind as I made the mistake of picking up the receiver. Hello? Yes, may I speak with Jeremy Masterson? It was a damned bill collector. I came close to gagging on what I believed to be the epitome of a capitalistic technocracy. I thought quicker than I ever believed possible and came up with a whopper. Oh, Jeremy, it's so sad what's happened. I'm sorry, has something happened to Mr. Matheson? You haven't heard? Jeremy has passed away. He acquired Legionnaire's disease from not cleaning out his coffee pot. The world is so cruel sometimes. Consequently, I haven't drank a drop of coffee since I learned of Jeremy's condition. I was getting a little too deep in the shit. Really? Well, I'm with CNC Credit, and if you could send us a copy of his death certificate. Click. I hung up. The guy had sounded saturated in old sod cologne. The sons of bitches just couldn't get it through their greedy little noggins that I'm broke. The only thing I had in the world was my TV. They could have it if they really wanted it. Hell, they would be doing me a great service getting rid of my devil box. Speaking of which, I needed some distraction. It was getting incredibly hard to swallow. I had this dry, insipid sensation in my mouth making its way into my gullet, and I abruptly became keenly aware of my bowels. What lowly caste of creatures would inhabit my digestive tract? A vision of a tapeworm squirming through the quagmire of my intestines invaded the inner sanctum of my mind. I needed the devil box. I clicked on my 28-inch view screen to the outside world, and an eerie ultraviolet glow permeated and swirled with the light of the lamp, so I turned the lamp off for optimum influence. I eased myself in position in my TV chair, a Goodwill plaid special. I felt from the cloth of the chair that a lonely, bitter senior citizen had spent a lot of time sunken in that seat. I suddenly felt what it would be like to have false teeth slipping around inside my mouth. I needed to floss more. I flipped the stations in proper attention deficit.